Okay students, we were doing casualization of workforce. Okay, casualization of workforce. Somebody asks you what is casualization of workforce means. From regular employment, regular salaried workers percentage from regular salary worker increasing to the percentage of casual wage workers. When the percentage of regular salaried workers decrease, regular like in government employees, the wages are what? Regular, constant. No matter what, they will be paid. Fixed amount they will be paid. Right? From regular salaried workers, casual workers, number of casual wage workers increasing. Wage workers, daily wage workers, per hour base wage workers. When this percentage increases, this is known as casualization of workforce. Regular to wage system or hour system, which is casual wage workers, percentage increases, then regular salaried workers, and that is casualization. Right? Then we will study one more thing. Jobless growth. There is a term, jobless growth. Now what is a jobless growth? There is happening growth, but in whole country there is no jobs. In formal way, when GDP of the country is increasing, but it is unable to increase the job for the work, unable to increase the job for the people who are willing to work, right? So that scenario is jobless growth. It is a phenomena which means that the GDP of the country is rising, but without generating employment. Jobless growth. It is a phenomena when GDP of the country is increasing. GDP of the country is increasing without creating what? Employment. The employment isn't being created, but there is increase in the GDP. This phenomena is jobless growth. Okay, these are the terms which will be asked to you, and you have to write that when GDP increases without creating employment. Indian economy have been able to produce more goods and services without generating employment by the use of machinery. When a machinery is used, human beings are replaced. There are many times, in many cases it happens. So what happens? The production happens, production of goods and services happen, but the employment decreases, and hence there is a state of jobless growth. Without generating employment, when their GDP increases, that scenario is jobless growth. Got it? Now we will do after this. We will study about formal establishment. Okay, what are the formal establishments? See, we say it is a formal, it is organized. What is a formal establishment or formal sector? Formal establishment. Formal establishment. or sector. Okay. There is an organization, okay, where number of people are more than 10. The organization, the establishment in which number of people employed are more than 10 or more hired workers. Employed workers are more than 10 or hired workers are more than 10. Then it is in formal sector. That is known as formal sector. Whereas in formal sector, what is the informal sector? Where number of people in the sector is less than 10. Suppose a tailor shop where number of people are less than 10, or a small bakery where number of people are less than 10. School where number of people employed are more than 10, that is a formal establishment. Got it? Then we'll be discussing about the difference between the formal sector and informal sector. One point you understood, that where there is more than 10 number of people, that sector is known as formal sector. Where there is less than 10, that is informal sector. Where there is 10 number of people, suppose you have a running business, say restaurant, where number of people employed are 10, then again it will be a formal sector. Okay, let's discuss formal sector and informal sector differences. There can be a question asked to you, what are informal sectors and formal sector? First is people are more than 10 and here people are less than 10. Okay. Second, government exercises control over their sector by passing necessary acts, formulates rules and regulations. Now, government intervenes, rules are to be followed of government, regulations are to be followed of government. Government control is there. Okay. Where in informal sector, there is no control of government. Government does not interfere. Okay. Right, government does not interfere except there is one act which is minimum wage rate, act. Except this act, minimum wage rate act, where minimum rate which is supposed to be given should be given. Except that, no other act is applicable to the informal sector act. Except this. Except this act, no other acts are applicable to informal sector, but labor law, this law, that law, all the laws and acts are applicable. Minimum wage rate, employee provident fund, everything is applicable in the formal sector where people are more than 10. Okay. Then third point is workers working in sector are entitled to social security benefits. I told you there is act. There are acts applicable to this sector. Like in school, suppose a chips company. Where people are more than 10, government rules and regulation will be applicable over there. Then workers work in the sector. Now, workers, labor class workers will be given some security, a security which is formed by the Act. Social Security Benefit, Employee Provident Fund or PPF or some other fund, Social Security. Some health benefit like prescribed hospitals, if they want to get treated, money can be deducted. Some social securities are given by the law to the workers in the formal sector, whereas in this sector, no social security. No social security, because this sector is not controlled by the government, right? So many acts and rules they do not follow. Then now this sector have right to approach any injustice happen to a worker, can approach, have the right to approach to the trade union. No such trade union facility to the informal sector. Formal sector offers better pay scales to its workers. Now, if you have a person employed at your home, you will regulate yourself, right? But if the same person is employed in a government sector or a sector where people are more than 10, suppose in a company, may it be private or government company or public company, what will happen? The pay scale what you are giving for mopping, for cleaning utensils, and if that same person works in the canteen of a organization where people are more than 10, then what will happen? He will be paid more than what he will get in the informal sector. So, paid more, paid less, paid less, right? Workers working in formal sector enjoy job security. They cannot be dismissed without giving them a due notice. In this sector, anybody works, a due notice period, every company has a norm where people are more than 10. That a due notice of 1 month prior going, or a due notice of 3 months as decided by the company rules, that one has to give the notice before retrenching or asking the employee to go. 1 month prior notice at least, or whatever the rules of the company is. But anybody who has to be thrown out of the employment in the informal sector, no such notices are given. If you don't want your maid to work, will you be giving notice to her? No. So that is the informal sector where people are less than 10 people are working in your organization, in your home, and that sector is informal sector. Neither you give any job security to the person, nor you give any social benefit to the person, and many other benefits like notices are not given. If you want to ask the woman not to come tomorrow, and you sit directly. This happens in informal sector, but in formal sector proper steps, rules and regulation governed by the government and entitled by the government have to be followed, right? So this is all about formal and informal sector. These are the differences. Somebody asks you the formal and informal differences, then you will be explaining these. I explained you with the example. Got it? Now there is a term, informalization of Indian workforce. Informalization of Indian workforce implies that there is a continuous decline in the percentage of workforce in formal sector and a corresponding increase in the percentage of workforce in the informal sector. When people, as the name signifies, that an informalization of Indian workforce. Informalization of Indian workforce. That means something is happening with the informalization sector. Informal sector. Okay, something is happening to this sector. Informal sector. Informalization of workforce. Informalization of the workforce. What happens that when people leave, or the percentage in the formal sector decreases and informal sector increases. Now what is seen in past few years, informal sector is increasing, where number of people working is less than 10. This sector when increases and formal sector decreases, that scenario is informalization of workforce. Okay, informalization of Indian workforce implies that there is a continuous decline in the percentage of workforce in the formal sector and a corresponding rise in the percentage of workforce in informal sector. Okay. Now, formal sector, all the public sector establishments, all those private sector establishments, all the public sector, private sector employing 10 or more than 10 employees or workers come under formal sector employment. Okay. The government exercises some control over, I explained you, the government exercises some control. There is a job security, there is a social security, okay, whereas there is no such security to the informal sector. All the enterprises and the workers working in those enterprises form the informal sector. Workers and enterprises in the informal sector do not get regular income. They do not have any protection. No regular income, no protection of their job. Workers are dismissed without any compensation. I told you now, if you have to say somebody go from your house, asking maid to go, you won't give any notice. If a shopkeeper says, oh, that bhaiya to go, you won't, no notice is served. That is informal sector, right? Okay, and then we will be doing, after this we will be doing other topics in our next video, right?